Hello, 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 New Era women all over the world. It is Coach Michelle here, checking in with another podcast. Now, this one is live. This is for our once a month podcast. We actually invite someone into the studio to join us in a conversation that is going to change the world. I just know it. So, welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining us. And I'm excited to bring into the studio today Dr. Christopher King, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and we'll do some announcements towards the end of this podcast just for sake of time. But I want to make sure we get his voice into your ear immediately. So, welcome to the studio, Christopher
Thank
King.
you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. We got a lot to talk about today. Got a lot to talk
Oh,
about
God.
today. We're going to
Oh,
inspire
I've
some
been
folk. We're
waiting.
going to
I've
have
been
some
waiting.
fun. I've known this beautiful woman for years, and it's long overdue for us to do some things together. So you know, uh, let's just jump into it. Jump into it. Am I talking about myself, or we just doing greetings right now? What we doing, Chad?
No, let people know who you are. Let's start there because they need to know.
I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm the founder of the Gentleman's Course, the curator and founder of the Gentleman's Gala. We celebrated our 11th year this year. I am a 10-year Marine Corps combat vet myself as well. Grandson of BB King. I am a school board candidate right now. I sit on the board for GTE Financial Bank. I'm member of the Tampa Bay 100 Black Men. Shout out to Marcel
Congratulations.
Blythe.
Yes. Yes.
Board member for Wesley Chapel Black Chamber of Commerce. The resume is just long. We out here working, we're mentoring kids, we're working in our
Mhm.
community, we're pouring back and trying to make a couple of dollars while we in between, you know what I
Wow.
mean? There's a
You
little
got
bit.
it. Well, what you put into the world is what you receive
What you
back.
get
So
back,
I
that
see, I
facts.
see many cups. Your cup is running over, brother.
Yeah, you gotta give back, you gotta give a little to get a little.
Oh man, I actually just posted something similar. I was listening to a podcast summit this morning, and a gentleman, Chris Sane, who teaches like on entrepreneurship and stock trading, but basically he said that you just expect, give and expect nothing in return. He
And
said,
the
just
fact
give,
That's
just give, just.
that's philanthropy in its entirety and being a humanitarian. We help, we give, but the expectation is zero, right? Because we focus our gifts in other areas to monetize, not in how we help people.
Absolutely. But in that, is he said that's how he received. Like I received more than I expected as well. So when you give without expectation, you receive without expectation. That's the whole quote. That thing just
You
touched me
know,
this morning. I actually cried. I was like, what am I crying?
just be getting blessings out of nowhere. Be like, where this come from? Oh my God! Oh
Like,
wow!
okay,
Really?
Lord
Thank
trying
you. I
to tell me to
appreciate
give
that.
more. Like, okay,
Yeah, give
whatever.
some
We're
more.
going. But yeah. So thank you for your intro. Well, I'm excited to have you here. Like I said, I've been watching your progress since we connected a few years ago when I was a member of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, which I need to renew.
It's all
And
right.
I
It's all
think
right. Take your time, Chad. Take your time.
yes. Well, been laying the framework and the groundwork for my entrepreneurship journey. So, yeah, as soon as I get situated, I think maybe next year I'll be ready to get back into the fold. And I think you were emceeing
The
the
the Gourmet Gents event. Yeah,
so we've
Gourmet
been.
Gents. They just did that. I want to say
Yes.
about a week ago. They just had the
Yes.
Gourmet Gents event, and the 100
Yes.
was there to support.
Yes.
But with rebuilding, sometimes you got to step back from certain roles, and then it doesn't mean you give up on it. It just means you have to realign and reposition some things that are prioritized. Doesn't mean you don't care. It just means you
Absolutely.
have to re-strategize before you can re-engage again. And there's nothing wrong with repositioning yourself because that's power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you know it, I think when you don't know it and you're out of alignment, that's where the waste happens when you know it and you take the
Facts.
action
Yeah.
necessary. If that includes stepping back, then yes, it's
Yeah, that's
all. Oh,
self
yeah.
accountability. That's self
Oh,
accountability, hands down. Self accountability, and we must hold ourselves accountable. And sometimes people don't understand what that means because they think we're giving up on them. No, we're not. I need to be accountable for myself in this moment, and I'll be right back around that corner in just a second. Just let me go handle myself real quick, and I'll be back.
yeah. And they know where to reach me is I think I've spoken on a couple of their health panels since then. So, I still support as well. But I mean, ladies, I hope y'all already caught these gems. We like came out the gate with self accountability and entrepreneurship and philanthropy in just the first 60 seconds. But yeah, Chris, I would love to hear a little bit about your story because I haven't known that part of you, what your journey
Mhm.
has looked like. You slowly slipped in the BB King thing. I know people probably,
They
get
didn't catch
attracted
it.
to
They
you
missed
for
that.
that. But of course, in the meantime, we want to acknowledge you and your own legacy as well. So I know that's important, but it's a balance. But you're
Yeah, yeah.
carrying the namesake beautifully. So tell us a little bit about that journey and what it's like to be a part of that family.
I mean, well, moving to Florida in 2013, it was a change of scenery for me. Leaving Georgia, leaving the military, because it was how do you move into a space where you need to be somebody different because you cannot be who you were. Once you're out of the military, you're done. Like that whole ideology, that mindset, that culture is no longer the same. So coming to Florida was definitely a change. Didn't know anybody. I was a stranger to the entire community. No friends. I had to redevelop. I had to develop everything that I knew in Florida as a whole. So ultimately, that little bit of that backstory, without giving you the whole book today, I wanted to do something different. So coming from being working for my grandfather, leaving the military. I was an entrepreneur in Georgia, so I had some nightclubs, and of course, I still had regular jobs. I was a hustler. All in all, I worked for Home Depot. I worked for J.C. Penney. So don't think just because people out here are entrepreneurs that they ain't never had no regular jobs. No, no. Trust me, we there's duality in all things, right? Because when you're
Absolutely.
building something, bills still got to get paid. So we had to,
Um,
I had to reposition, and do some things. But
And
coming to
super quick, let me just interject because I think you missed a greater point. A real quick point was about that foundation, but a lot of those lessons travel with you because I think about me as a nurse, 30 years, loving
Mhm.
media now, but a lot of things we do to set the foundation actually comes with us along the journey.
Yeah, when you have jobs, it creates a culture for you and a mindset of professionalism, one, character development, and how do you commit to something if you can't commit to a job? How you can commit to your own career and your own world as an entrepreneur? You just go if you quitting jobs, you're gonna quit your entrepreneurship. So, at the end of the day, if you can't commit in the beginning, you're not going to commit in the long haul. So it helps people that can keep careers for long periods of time and actually show that they can be successful in that space. You can be accountable to yourself because now nobody's going to tell you time to go to work, time to go to lunch. You're doing that on your own, how to balance your money. Because if you don't work, you don't eat. Ain't no check every 2 weeks. So how do you do all those things responsibly? Running the business, maintaining the businesses, gaining the customer base, understanding the marketing and branding aspect of it, then being fiduciary responsible for the accounting perspective to make sure your taxes are paid. I can just go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Go get your regular job, be happy, get your check every 2 weeks, get your W-2, file your taxes, get your tax return, and be happy, child. Go buy your car. Leave me alone. You muted, girl. You muted. You muted yourself.
Number two.
And number two. All right, the list can go on and on and on.
So you
But
moved to Georgia, no friends, and
so being here, I love it. I love being here in Florida. And shortly around 2 years it took me to build out what the gentleman's course is,
okay.
right? I started out working with an organization called Miracles Outreach and heavy into fashion. Remember the whole fashion shows, and I had the wooden bow ties and all that stuff. That was a whole season.
Yes.
And I got booked to host a fashion show for Miracles Outreach. I
Mm.
didn't know what human trafficking was. So, of course, as you guys are listening, you're going to hear things that just transition very quickly because this is literally how it happened, and it went from one thing to the next. Literally, we're talking months, not years. No, these happening in months. So got booked for a fashion show, hosted the fashion show, didn't know what human trafficking was. My manager at the time, her name was Tina Cox, she told me about human trafficking literally on the red carpet. Like we're walking in the door and I'm finna go host and MC this event, and I gave the money back to Miracles Outreach and I hosted the event for free. Learned about human trafficking. I started volunteering for their organization, learning more about it, getting more engaged. So I wrote down 30 rules of being a gentleman. This is like within 45 days to a month, 2 months later. I booked Robert Saunders Library, and that was through I'm having a brain fart, I can't remember her name. But it was a young lady who also a member of the 100 had helped me out. Um, and I didn't have a nonprofit. So I had to partner with a local nonprofit in Tampa Bay to get access to the library system. So I took my 30 rules of being a gentleman on a piece of paper, went to the library. Miracles Outreach brought some kids, a couple other organizations brought kids over, and I just started talking to kids about how it is, about decorum, about having simple manners. How do we treat people? I brought some clothes out of my closet, some dishes out of my cabinet, put them in an old raggedy suitcase that I had, and I called McDonald's like, "Hey, I need 100 hamburgers. I need some apple slices, some apple juices for kids." and I want to feed them lunch for free. And that was through Capers Company,
Yes.
who owned McDonald's chain line in Tampa Bay. They agreed to sponsor me and give me the food, and that's what started it. I asked for help and I asked for support, and God made a blessing for me to do that. So ultimately, that was 11 years ago, right? And now we're based our headquartered out of Dade City, Florida. That's where our office is. We actually have our own office now. We don't use libraries anymore. We contract with schools. We developed a female curriculum, so we do gentlemen and we do young ladies as well. So we teach refinement to the young ladies as well as decorum and refinement to the young men. And it's called a gentleman's course, but it's a co-ed program, ultimately simply teaching etiquette, human rights, and human trafficking prevention and awareness. That's our core.
Mhm.
Um, that's the intro to the backstory, right? How did we get here
Right.
today?
Thank you for
And
sharing.
all at the same time, I was working at New York Life. I was
Mhm.
in the call center at New York Life on the phones, not doing what I was supposed to be doing, getting written up every 90 days because I wasn't performing because my focus was not working for that company. My focus was building what I wanted, right? But ultimately I still had bills to get paid. I needed to pay my rent, light bill, water bill, car note, and all things. So
Right. But purpose called,
a purpose
and you
did
you
call.
picked up the phone.
So that first gala, you remember, Miracles Outreach was the benefactor for our very first Gentleman's Gala in 2015. And it was in January. It's Human Trafficking Prevention Awareness Gala. And this is kind of how the June Gala became the premier event and not the January event.
Okay.
So I'm not going to talk about none of the bad, y'all. So just y'all have to catch me on another day for that one. But the event didn't go as planned in January. We only sold 25 tickets. We had to give away 300 tickets. And it was just was not a good day, right? But we executed, and that's really all that matters. And we donated 2,500 bucks to Miracles Outreach. And it came to find out I learned a lot of valuable lessons in nonprofitry as well that evening because I learned about co-benefiting organizations and board members and all that stuff, and checks being passed between organizations that benefit another board member's organization. I learned a lot that night. Literally in one night, I learned how to operate, organize, run a nonprofit. Literally in one night.
Hey, they say it don't take long to change your life. It don't
It
take a
only take
moment,
one.
right?
So I had to Trinette Ingram. That was her name. Trinette Ingram was
Oh,
the young
okay.
lady who
Yes,
helped me
yes.
get the library system. So
I remember her.
she was one of the founding members, founding board members of the Gentleman's Course, along with Tina Scotland and a couple other ladies. But I had a support system, right? And here we are today, now re-evolved, full new board, and executing without hiccups, right? But we had three galas. So when that gala failed, and we only raised 2,500 bucks. It was a bust. I had a bunch of bills, and then the church, of course, Clearwater, the church, they came in and said, "We're going to help cover your bills tonight, and we're going to redo this again in 6 months." So that pushed us to June,
Yeah.
doing the gala again with a better support system, a better foundation. And by that time, I still did not have a 501c3, but the June event became a staple event. I was literally just using my brand as a person to leverage to raise money for other community organizations, right? So Miracles Outreach was the first one. And then we had the Florida Coalition Against Human Trafficking was the second one. And then the third one was Save Our Freedom. And Elizabeth Fisher was the president at the time. So you're talking a bunch of powerful women running their organizations because you know you had Michelle over at Miracles Outreach, rest in peace to her husband, and then you had I forget the lady's name at FCAT, Florida Coalition Against Human Trafficking. Then you had Elizabeth Fisher at Say La Freedom. One out of the three events was successful. One out of the three. So when you trying to do and you're trying to build and you're trying to do it, you're gonna fail. And it's okay, but you got to keep pushing forward. So the first event, it was a bust. We didn't sell no tickets. The second event, um, a bad check was written. It bounced. It offset our donation. They tried to sue us and say, "Well, you stood on stage and said you're giving us 3 grand. We want the 3 grand." I ain't got it to give. Check bounce, which offsets the accountability for the entire event, and the event bills have to be paid first, right? That's a primary. So we end up giving them a $2,000 check and the bounce check because the organization that did the sponsorship, and how your sponsorship check bounce, like that is crazy work. And that man never fixed that either. He never fixed that. Um,
That man.
That man never fixed. He was out of Atlanta. His insurance company out of Atlanta, Georgia. He never fixed that business. But we end up giving them the bounce check, and I'm gonna tell you why. So nonprofits, hear this out. People who want to start a 501c3.
Okay.
When people give you sponsor dollars in
Mm,
support of another nonprofit where they're using their tax ID and determination letter, you're not accountable for that. So since he used their tax ID number to give his donation in support of the event, I just turned over his check to them and the letters from the bank saying it was invalid and could not be cashed because technically that money was going directly to them anyway. And we gave them 2,000 plus that check. There's your 3 grand. Their lawyer said this is legitimate. Mr. King, we owe us no more money. We're good. If they want to pursue that,
right.
they have to
Let them take
pursue
care
that.
of it.
Let them pursue that to him
Absolutely.
directly and not to me. I'm not liable for it. So we cleared our name from that, and our lawyers settled out, and we walked away from it unscathed, unharmed. But here's the thing: your heart is always with good intentions. People sometimes don't care, and what that did, it showed our sponsor, which is the church in Clearwater,
Okay.
that everybody is not here for the good recipient. They don't want to just receive blessings. They are evil and incarnate, and they will attack you and take you to court and try to destroy you, all for money.
Money, 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 money. Let's breathe right there. Because there's so many gems. Okay. And then we'll move on to the next segment. But you just dropped so much for us. So, ladies, if you're listening to this, so many lessons. And thank you for sharing your wisdom because some of us have to
Yeah.
learn this the hard way, right? But he's not only taught us about, of course, how to network, connect, build a network, get into the nonprofit space, but then how to be accountable, how to kind of be more mindful and
Be
discerning.
mindful.
Yes, when it comes to partnering and then the cost of events, which I think some people take lightly
They take for
sometimes.
granted. Yeah, take for granted. And
Ooh,
we ain't even got into the insurance and alcohol and all of it. Man, look, next.
my. Whole nother
Next.
side to it.
Whole nother. So that
But
led us to
just be
getting our own
mindful, ladies,
501.
for sure.
That led us to getting our own 501c3.
Got
And
it.
that came by request from our title sponsor, which was the church. And they said, hey, we're going to keep doing this, but you're only going to raise money for yourself and nobody else. And that
Right.
was the shift and why June became that staple event,
Mm,
because it was built around that. And it just became a statement for the community. We got more support over the summer. And we started advocating from the library to actual getting into the schools. That's where we started getting into um, some of the schools in East Tampa, South Tampa, etc., mentoring kids. Me just running around with a bag full of ties, teaching boys how to tie ties. And I was getting called, hey, can you come teach my boys how to tie ties? Sure. I'll show up
yes,
with a bag
yes.
full of ties. Here we go.
Yes, 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 yes. Wow. So awesome. So awesome. And thank you for the work that you do. But I do have one more question before we get into the present and here and now so we can learn about your programs. I just want to like because I feel like you tell me, does the name get you into some of these places? Because some people who might try to replicate your success might like, well, he has a little leverage there. So how has that been? Like, have you been able to attract opportunities because of that? And did things come to you a
So
little differently?
you'd be surprised that a lot of people enjoy the name of just knowing they met a family member of BB King. Fair, right? He was just Pop Out to me. He was not, he was famous, but growing up in that world, that's not how we see it as kids.
Right.
I'm 44 now, but back when I was in my teenage years and a minor, that's just Pop Out. And Pop Out, you gonna help me? I need some school clothes. And he give you a couple $100 to get some school clothes, and that was it. We go
Yeah.
see him, we sit on this bus.
Yes.
We didn't process what it was, what we were around. It was
What you're
just we seeing our
experiencing.
granddaddy work.
Oh,
And he worked on stage and he played his guitar. And after he come off stage, he give us a hug and
Lucille.
kiss. And we can get a hug and kiss, and Lucille will go in the box, and we see the security take Lucille away, and we walking next to the wheelchair, and we go to the dressing room. It was
You can't
just
say hey, you can't say his guitar without saying Lucille. Now, come on.
Lucille. I mean, Lucille had a whole world of her own. She had her own security details. She had her own traveling case. Lucille was bougie. Lucille
I'm
didn't
sure
touch the
insurance too.
she didn't touch the flow. Lucille was airlifted everywhere. That child, man, that girl ain't never had her toenails in dirt. What you talking about? And I say her because Lucille is named after a woman, right? And many of you, if you don't know that story, that it was a bar fight way down in Mississippi, and no, in Arkansas, excuse me, in Arkansas, and the club caught on fire. and he had to run back inside to get the guitar, and he found out that that bar fight that caused that club to catch on fire that he was playing at, that little juke joint, was over a woman named Lucille. And since then, that guitar, Lucille, has saved his life a multitude of times where he was in a car accident and the car flipped. And the only thing that kept the car off of him was the guitar case with Lucille in it.
Oh, now,
Kept the car just enough off of him where they can pull him off from underneath the vehicle. So, you know,
God.
not BB King, but Riley B. King. That's his
Mhm.
real name. And Lucille definitely was a pair that was unbreakable.
Oh, say less.
You
Thank you
know,
for sharing that. That's
hey man,
beautiful.
for those that didn't know the story, there you go. That's how Lucille got her name on the
Yeah.
guitar.
No, I
Uh,
didn't know that. I'm sure many other listeners might not have known that as well. So that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. Women
Yeah.
always causes fights and stuff and just creating millionaires out
But
here
we
through their
keep
drama.
saving lives at the same time, though, brother.
Same,
See, we got your back. When you need us, we there. When it
they fixed it. They fixed it later,
baby,
y'all. They fixed it later, y'all. She came back and fixed it.
when it counts, we come through in the
When the
clutch.
cows would come
Oh,
through. Yeah, yeah, she came through now. She came through now. She came
hey,
through a
we're saving
multitude
his
of
life.
times. A
Hey, we be
multitude of
saving
times.
lives and don't even know it. See?
Don't even know if
Oh
you saved that
man.
man life.
That's awesome. Such a beautiful story. All right. So we're gonna fast forward to now. And you shared with us so much about, what you have going on now, entrepreneurship and the business, but tell us a little bit about, first of all, from what I hear about all your projects, because I know we've talked about the gala, but I know you do so much more. So I would love for you to share like the overall picture
So,
of what you do.
okay, here's the scale. So, I'm a motivational corporate speaker. So, I get booked, and my agency is All American Speakers. So, they book me out for speaking engagements and all things. That ranges anywhere from five, can be up to 20, 30 grand for a speak, depending on what the client is, who the client is. So I am an international speaker. I've flown to Africa. I've flown to Japan. I've been to the White House 4 times, back when President Obama was in office, Biden as well, and of course, even Donald Trump. So I've been
Okay.
there. The work we do is intentional. Nonprofit consultant now. So I went back those hard lessons I learned, also going through the process of starting my own nonprofit and taking those classes and courses in nonprofit management and all those things helped me get the brain wheelhouse to understand of navigating Florida nonprofitry. And nonprofitry is just my word. Leave me alone. And
Okay.
consulting. So I help people grassroots start nonprofits, corporate speaking. Then, of course, we have the seminars that we offer through our workshops and the gentleman's course and the school contracts that we have. And our
Yes.
school contracts cover the whole state. So you might have us in Miami, we might be here in Tampa Bay, but our core is Pasco, Polk, Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Hernando County schools. That's our core, right? Central Florida, right here in our own backyard. That's where I lay my head. I live in Zephyr Hills, Florida, so I will always be a Central Florida guy right now. I don't plan on going nowhere no time soon. But yeah, that's a little bit of what we do on that side. And now future events. So I'm a brand ambassador recently by the Department of Homeland Security for human trafficking prevention. They have a campaign called the Blue Campaign. And when I got that phone call a couple months ago, it was weird because I wasn't expecting it. They left me a couple voicemails because we us,
We.
y'all, we don't answer numbers we don't know. And it might be, it looked like people, oh, that's a bill collector. I ain't answering that phone.
Hmm. Hmm.
I ain't
Hmm.
never changed.
For real.
So I
Never
went to
change.
check what I never returned the call. Then I get an email. And I'm like, okay, well, this might be who was calling my phone. So let me call him back. And the number was the same in his signature. So I called him back. His name was Diego Luca, and he was the regional director for Department of Homeland Security Blue Campaign. And what their conversation was, they wanted me, considering our organization as a whole is the number one organization in Florida, using their materials to make communities aware of what human trafficking is. So they offered me something that they don't offer anybody, which is a partnership to co-brand all of Department of Homeland Security's marketing material for human trafficking prevention. So that made me the Florida ambassador, and being able to put their seal next to mine. And we're surpassing law enforcement. We're not talking about local sheriff's office because then what drove this, local law enforcement don't have any information to educate communities on human trafficking. If you
Wow.
call right now and say, hey, I want to do a community event and educate my community on human trafficking prevention. Do you guys have resources you can provide us at our community event? All I'm going to tell you, no, we don't have any printed resources, but we can send an officer to talk about it. They can do that all day long, but that's it. So we had to find a resource to educate our people because we wanted to leave something in your hands, something you can go read, take away,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
I need
now
mine.
going, you say you need some. You got
No,
yours
I
at the
have some
gala.
from the gala. I took some, so I was reading it here. Yeah.
So now
Good stuff.
they keep me stocked up, and that helps our office space with having that storage to keep all that information. But now, and I'm leading into one of our core events that's coming, which is a Central Florida Human Trafficking Summit, which is something different because yes, people are gonna say, well, we got task force around here already. Yeah, you do. We have a lot of human trafficking task force. You got No More Pasco and Pasco. You got one in St. Pete. You got one in Hillsborough County. But guess what they don't do? They don't do summits. They don't do community events. They don't educate the people in the neighborhood on about human trafficking.
Right.
And when the Department of Homeland Security noticed this, they need an outlet. So now we're bringing to Central Florida the first Department of Homeland Security Human Trafficking Summit partnership with the Gentleman's Course, which is going to also invite law enforcement agencies as well as community organizations to empower and talk about safety, talk about prevention. Let's talk about mental health components of how do we do the rehab side, because human trafficking has two components. And we'll get into that when we do the interview talking about that summit. But that gives you a shell to understand that human trafficking as a prevention perspective encompasses more than just rescues and raids, more than just housing, and then there's a rehabilitation component. How do we help these individuals re-engage society again? Right
Okay.
now
Okay.
we have the Pasco County Community Gala because you know that transition put in Taj Mahal in charge of our traditional gala. All that did was free me up to go do something else somewhere else, right?
Keep growing and scaling, brother.
So now we're talking about something we talked about offline. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, we're not built to finish everything we build. Sometimes we're here just to start it. And I believe in building a strong foundation and then transferring that power, something stable, something good, to somebody else that can actually take the reins and take it to the heights that it needs to be. It's not meant for me to be there. I'm still going to be the founder. That will never leave me. The Gentleman's Course is still my organization, right? But sometimes you can allow these small nuggets to go to somebody else, right? And let them do that. I want our culture of a people to have multiple things to enjoy themselves with that not only create impact, because we don't get invitations to the other people parties. It is what it is. You have to know somebody, be on the board, or be in that room already to be invited. But how many galas in Florida that can compare to the Met Gala that you see that create impact and it's specifically just for us? There's not many. That list you can probably count on one hand, right? Yeah, NAACP, Pasco, they do their Freedom Fund banquet, their gala. You know, you have Toba, and they do a gala, right? But these are
I
one-offs
do.
every
Yeah.
year, right? And they're targeted for a specific purpose, scholarships and things of that nature, right? They're targeted. But I'm talking about a night of leadership, excellence, black power, and just pure beauty in its
It was.
essence.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we got to keep creating for us. And then also highlighting our youth. Kids are not involved in a lot of those galas. So to have kids involved in a youth component is huge. So now
Yep.
bringing that to Pasco County, we got the Human Trafficking Summit, we got the Community Gala in Pasco, which already is the date set for January 9th, and that'll be in Wesley Chapel. And now we got the November 21st, we got the Rooted and Rain Wellness Summit. And that's and as in the symbol and, not A and D, but Rooted and Rain. I did a Rooted Wellness Summit just for men last November, and it was great. We did it at USF.
I remember.
This year, we started out with yoga in the morning, and then we brought in workshops throughout the day from financial. But it was imagine a room of men pouring into men. There's about 150 men there. And I'm talking, there was some hugs passed, there was some tears shed, and it was a safe space. And don't women, I'm sorry, but women were not allowed. It was just a safe space just for men. There were two women in the room, and they had to sign a piece of paper saying we're not engaged, and they sat in the back of the room. But
I think that's amazing.
the amount of information they learned and gained in that moment was
Mm-hmm.
powerful
Mm-hmm.
because we have to understand that there's a culture where there's some people, and I'm just going to, get off my soapbox for a moment, but there's some people, primarily women, that they weaponize information, right? when a man tries to become vulnerable. And it's hard. So you'll see a trend where